No, we just started. But do me a favor, go on your Facebook
Okay.
and go to my page and share it.
Everything. Okay, hang on. It's
Oh,
loading.
I got 3 more followers. Okay.
Oh, my mom, my husband, and Jess. No, I'm kidding. Share it how? On my
Hold
Facebook?
on. Yeah, let me see if it's. Did I go live?
Yeah, I can see you.
You can see me. I can't see me. Yeah, so just go to it and then just go to share.
And share it to my Facebook?
Yeah. And let me make sure. You can see me. I can't see me. Oh, there I am. And share. More options.
So say your page name for me. Everything?
J everything.
J everything.
So share.
All
Share
right,
in
shared.
this face. Oop, I tag you. Katrina. Usually it takes a good like 5, 7 minutes to get everything set up.
All right, cool.
Okay, there we go. Gotta fix my posture, of course. Can you so go to the Facebook page? Are your tags right? So Katrina Gatuz said
Uh,
cocoa nuts.
let's see.
Oh, my background's dark.
Yeah,
What?
it's
Battery's
red.
low. That's not the same red.
Oh, you had a blue before, right?
Yeah, I try not to do back to back same colors, cause style and everything. Oh,
Your
people in
your
the
fan.
room. Rachel, what's up? Can you see the chat? Keep it open on your phone so you can see the
Oh,
chat too. And
oh,
just
but
mute
then
it.
how do I?
Just mute it.
Okay, wait. Whoops.
Yeah. Let me change
Okay.
my lighting. It looks like I
All
got bags under
right.
my eyes. Hold on. And also, can you let me just check my Instagram to see if that's up. My Instagram's been really. Oh, there it is. Nope.
Aw, I wish they could talk right back to us.
Well, technically, I could see them in my window.
I know, but I mean, I wish they could like speak to us,
Oh,
like live questions or whatever.
well, they can just ask away.
We'd have to type it.
Hold on, let me see if mine is.
Hey, Amanda.
Well, it takes a little bit for everything to load. The one I keep having trouble with is the YouTube one. Let me just make sure that one's working. There's got to be a way to test everything before I actually go online, because that's the hard part. I feel like I messed that part up. Mine is. Oh,
Hey,
there it is.
Amanda.
Oh gosh, it's live. Yes. Okay, that's good. Facebook is good. Keep that open. That's good. Okay, you got your drink? You ready? You ready to toast?
I have my water in my wine glass.
You're so fancy.
Well, you told me I have to get a like alcoholic drink, so water in a wine glass is the best thing to do.
Okay, well, anyways, let's go ahead and start this thing. Well, let's see how many people are. Oh, we got 11 people. Oh,
What?
snap, girl. You got 11 people already.
All right.
Okay, so it's customary for me to raise a glass to my guest, Katrina. Just want to say appreciate you. Thanks for coming on. I was really debating whether or not I wanted to have you on the show, mainly because me and you, I think of our all the years we've known each other, we probably maybe had like 1.5 actual conversations about grown up stuff. So I didn't think this was gonna come out good at all because I feel like we would just talk about each other's kids or make fun of each other's significant others. So I just want to say I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on. And here's to a good show and to many more. And let's go ahead and get the start. Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, yours looks delicious.
I'm fancy, you know
I
what I'm
would
saying?
drink that if I had it.
Well, I should have told your husband to make you one. I should have told you.
I know.
But anyways, for everyone that's watching, I just want to introduce Katrina. I've known you since I was 13, 14, 15,
Seventh, eighth grade.
something like that. And I've had the opportunity to see you grow up and be an adult, marry my best friend, godfather and godmother to each other's kids. And I just want to say it's like I'm really happy to have you on. Mainly because with this type of show, I told you before, once we got on air, it's important to me mainly not only just to have this show and just kind of build my network and everything. I just really want to highlight all of my friends that are doing awesome, and you and Ryan. I just love you guys as a couple, and I just love that you guys are doing awesome, happy together, happy marriage, happy kids and everything. So I just want to say thank you again. And for everyone that doesn't know you, or for the people that do know you, can you go ahead and give yourself a quick introduction, and then we can get started.
So personally, I'm a mother of three, a 6-year-old, 3-year-old, 1-year-old. Um, my first job, I will always say, is and my most important role in life is to my husband and my 3 kids. And then secondary is the career and professional stuff. So my biggest focus is sales and marketing consulting at the moment. It's really where my skill sets lay. I love helping startup businesses and small businesses grow. I do a lot of volunteer community work. I'm currently a board member with the Boys and Girls Club in my local city here in Elgin, and also a board member for It's Our Little Story NFP. And I am currently volunteering on the campaign team for a local city council member. So I love volunteering in my community. I think it's important to do community service work. My kids are going to be growing up in this community, so it's important that I have my place in it and have my say in it as much as I can. So all things that are important to me, I just want to make sure I'm involved in.
I would just like to say I didn't know you were that busy, so thank you for giving me an hour of your time. I get it, girl. Whatever. Do your thing. No wonder you wanted to move a little early. You gotta get to sleep. I get it. Okay, so again, so you know the topic of our conversation today is how to build an effective sales strategy. Just real quick, can you just tell me why having an effective sales strategy is important? I know from my point of view, when I first started my businesses in photo and videography, I thought I had everything down. I thought I watched a couple of YouTube videos, read a couple articles, and I think I had it down. Can you tell me what it's really about and why it's so important?
Sure. So your sales strategy, sales and marketing strategy, I think really are the roadmap. It's your directions on where you're going. So you're going to get lost if you don't have something to follow. You need to have those directions. Back in the day, it was MapQuest. Nowadays, you have Google Maps or whatever it is. You need to have those directions for you to follow. So the most important piece of it is creating those goals and then the roadmap to get there. So it's like stepping out of your house and going to a birthday party of a place that you've never been to. The first thing you're doing is looking on your phone, making sure you have the directions to get there. So it's really the roadmap of how you get to where you want to go.
And I think
And you won't get there unless you have it.
And I think it's important to also know, I say this on pretty much every one of my shows, the hard part is not so much having the great idea for the product or the service. It's having the organization and the structure to put you in a position for success. And one of the things too is things you learned 5 years ago, let's say in college or, you know, a course that you took in sales and marketing. Things change so fast depending on what industry you in, some sooner than later. Like right now, I'm currently in the automotive realm, we sell cars, and people just aren't allowed to come to the dealership anymore. Like, how do you deal with that? Can you talk about a little bit of the evolution of your industry?
Sorry, you glitched just a little bit, so I missed part of the question.
No, my
Sorry.
voice just cracked. Actually, that was just what it
No,
is.
I'm pretty sure it was a glitch.
Yeah. So pretty much, can you just talk a little bit how the industry changed, or as far as like
Oh,
specific techniques over the years compared to like 5, 10 years ago? What's so different about
oh
like
my
sales and
gosh.
marketing?
Yeah, social media, point blank. Social media is huge. And um, just the amount of content that people are creating is insane. It's insane the amount of content that people are creating. And it's just, people are constantly on their phones because they're just consuming everything that's out there. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. I'm just like, I'm gonna die not having consumed all the content there is out there now, like there's
That's
just
your
so
that's your concern about dying, Katrina?
well,
Loser.
there's just so much. Like, for example, the videos that you have up, it's there. People are just making so much content, and um, there's so many great ideas out there now, and it's really hard to have new ones. I feel like so you see a lot of people packaging things differently. Everybody nowadays can be an entrepreneur. 5, 10 years ago, that wasn't the case.
Yep.
It's a lot easier to create your own website. It's a lot easier to have your own unique URL. It's a lot easier to have your own unique email address. I could do that from my laptop right now. I tell everyone I could create a business in 2 hours, right? Just
And I've seen you do it. How many times were we just talking about building businesses? We got 10 business plans in an hour.
Yep. It's really easy to do that. And so one of the businesses I'm supporting right now with their sales and marketing plan, they were giving us the timeline and they were saying, okay, we won't have the website till February. I'm like, give me 2 seconds. I'll create it today. No, I'm kidding.
You ever heard of Squarespace?
It's a much more robust website. It's a large business. There's more red tape to go through with that, but being sort of a solopreneur, what you were saying before is you can just create things so much easier now than ever before because people are innovating and supporting the way that an individual can create their own business. So it's changed a ton. Anybody can have and to your question originally where you were saying anybody can have an idea. Everybody has ideas and everybody wants to turn that idea into a business. Everybody wants to do it. But the sales strategy and the plan, there's few people who know how to execute it. Everybody has a million ideas. I could come up with 10 and start tomorrow, but yeah, without the ability to execute or create that plan, you really just have an idea. That might cost you a lot of money.
Yeah. And that's like really funny. Like I said, man, I have this, like every day I come up with a new business. I'm like, damn it, I'm gonna be a millionaire. I'm gonna quit my job right now.
Right.
So
Everybody thinks you can make a quick buck. Everybody thinks you can have $1 million idea and then it's going to create you millions of dollars, and that's just not the case.
I was like, well, just taking what you just said. So if I am the solopreneur, the entrepreneur, small team, small business, whatever, I have a product or a service, where do I start? Like, what do I do? What do I have to think about when I'm building my initial sales strategy?
So there's two things. If you are pretty established already, for me, I always look at data. Whatever data you have behind you, that's always the first thing. But if you're starting totally from scratch, it's the value proposition. So, or your unique selling proposition. So what is it that you have that nobody else has, or how are you doing it differently? Because in a world where everything is just super saturated because everybody's just flooding the marketplace with a lot of things. You have to be unique. So for example, what's the difference between what's the difference between Amazon or DHL? It's Amazon is very unique to their are very dedicated to their selling proposition, which is like fast, speedy delivery. I mean, Amazon Prime is a perfect example of that. So it's getting that unique selling proposition, making sure that it's unique, making sure that it's going to resonate with your customers, and then how tightly you stick to that within your organization. I mean, it has to live and breathe in your organization. People should be able to memorize it. And in a few words, understand what your organization is about, and then be able to communicate that to their customers or anybody that they're talking about the business with.
So like when you break it down to the basis, usually when people ask me like what marketing is, I tell them marketing is just your story, like how you reach out to your customers. And sales is pretty much how you convert those leads into actually like buying customers. How do you convert them to a sale? How do you get that contract signed? How do you get the purchase? Like how do you convey that in writing? Or like how do you tell people like, all right, this is my plan. This is how I'm going to convert these people into sales. Like, is that the next step, or what's the next step?
From the value proposition, if you're already an established business, I would say you go to your goal setting. It always starts with the goal. So what do you want to accomplish that year, or whatever timeline you choose, your first quarter? It's what your goals are, whether that goals are how many new customers you have, whether that is a revenue goal. I want to achieve 100K in sales by second quarter 2021. So setting that goal helps you see what your destination is. And then from there, you can build your strategy. Some people might build their strategy and say, okay, this is how much I think we can make, or what we can achieve based on these parts and pieces. And then some people will set goals first. All the organizations that I've been involved in have always given me a budget number that I have to reach, So they're like, we want to achieve 10% growth in 2021. So I'm like, well, shit. Okay. so
like, dude, where's that 10% coming from? Like, are you just throwing it out there?
Yeah. So there's a couple organizations that I've been involved in where their sales were flat for 5 years, right? Their sales have totally plateaued, and they're just like, okay, well, we want to increase our sales 10% by next year. And I'm like, well, it's been flat the past 5 years, and everybody wants that, right? And so I think that was a big reason why I was able to get into more advanced selling positions, because these sales organizations were looking for fresh and new ideas, because they weren't able to figure out that switch of how to get from the old way of thinking to the new way of thinking. And so they were looking at younger minds at the time. I feel like I'm old now, but looking at younger minds at the time to come up with exactly, to come up with fresh ideas. So to use a business as a specific example, so it was a $15 million business, and they were $15 million for 5 years. And so they're like, okay, well, we need to get 10% growth next year. And so the ways we were able to achieve it was because we were able to come up with a sales plan and sales strategy for both short-term and long-term sales. So I think it's really important that when you're creating a sales strategy, you have that long-term and that short-term goal, because any small business, the short-term goal is probably the most important one at the time.
Right.
And the long-term goal is really where you want to get to. The short-term piece is really the lifeblood. It's what's going to keep the doors open. So it's really important to make sure that you're addressing both and being really honest about those goals and when you think those sales are going to hit. So the business that I was working in before, it had a long sales cycle. From the time that you start working with the customer might be 1 to 2 years before the sale actually happens. So coming up with
What are you selling? Coffins?
Architectural products.
Oh,
Architectural products. So,
selling
so
tombstones? What the hell?
oh God. Hopefully it's more than 2 years with a tombstone. But so architectural products, they'll design it and then they won't, once it gets through that sales cycle or that sales process, could be 1 to 2 years by the time all the renovation or the new build is done, and then they're purchasing the product. So it gets really, really, really important that you have that short-term sales strategy.
Right.
And
I just want to bring it back just a little bit, because that's like, I think a lot of people struggle with that, especially when you say short-term and long-term sales goals. I have 2 questions about it. I'll just say them both so I don't forget one. I will just say, like, the first one, I always have this difficulty balancing like short-term goals and long-term projections, because usually like you only have so many resources that you can commit to one or the other. Like, and usually you can't commit the same people to both projections. Like, how do you go ahead combating that? And then second, how do you set an effective goal? Like, what kind of research goes into that goal? Because you said that company is 15 million for how long? Like, how are you gonna, like, what kind of research did you say, all right, 10% growth is a realistic goal? Like, you guys haven't changed. How is that even a realistic goal? Like, me listening to it, like, that doesn't make sense. You're just gonna go just the same. Like, I don't get it.
well, I wish I was the one setting the goal at the time. I was
Right.
just tasked with executing it. So I
What would
didn't
you tell
really
that
have
person,
much.
like, yo, no, that's not right. That's an unrealistic goal, boss. Let's.
I really didn't have a choice in the matter. I didn't have a choice in the matter. So all I could do was come
Right,
up with the
right.
best plan I possibly can and say, I think this will achieve it, right? So to your question, balancing the long term and the short term strategy. So when you're first starting out, it's almost always just a short term strategy.
Right.
Right. So the long term strategy might be 1 year. The short term might be, how do I survive this month?
Right.
Right. So you know, it's all perception. So when you think of short-term strategy and you think about setting your sales goals, I always look at it from a data and numbers perspective. So what do I need to keep the lights on, right? So if my rent is going to cost me $3,000, if having an admin is going to cost me $2,500 per month, if my utilities is going to cost me this, and that, and what I need for me and my family to survive is going to cost this. So I need to generate this. That's really sort of the basics of beginning that business. This is the minimum I need to keep the lights on. So this is my goal.
So what you're saying is pretty much you want to have both short-term and long-term goal established before you start the business, because trying to tackle both at once while you're already moving forward is usually more difficult than if you would have had that before.
It is. So for example, let's just put an easy number out there and let's just say, okay, I need $10,000 to make $10,000 a month net for me to be able to keep these lights on. And if you didn't do that planning initially, you don't know what you're aiming for, right? So you're going to be like, yeah, I just finished this $3,000 project. Yes. All right. I'm winning. And then you're like, oh, well, I'm $7,000 under what I need for the month. So, you didn't plan what you needed to make. And so, so if you're like, okay, well, if my average sale is $3,000, I need to at least need to close 3 projects or 4 projects, right? So you know exactly the goal you need to set from there. So you have your initial budget goal. So I have my $10,000 goal, and I know I need to secure 4 projects because my average project size is going to be approximately $3,000 or so. And so from there, then you know what kind of net you need to cast, right? So whether that's from a marketing perspective, sales perspective, but so if you say, okay, now I need to, then you could set your social media strategy, right? So if you're saying, I am going to place an ad that is going to reach 30,000 people. Then you know your budget, right? Everybody knows on Facebook, I need to boost that post. And then it's like, you increase the bar. Okay, $5. Oh, that's going to reach 1,000 people or 10,000 people. Oh, I need to reach 30,000 because I am going to get, from there, I'm going to get 1% of that is going to convert to projects. You need to hit, you're going to be able to work that backwards and create the plan that you need to get there.
Yeah, and that's based on existing numbers that you've already had too. Because I feel like a lot of people, when they first start out, their numbers are just like, they're just guessing. They're like, oh, I've never actually seen how many customers I could bring in. So that's usually like the sticky spot that a lot of people are in. Well, you said this earlier, and I made fun of you, but it was just like, so for a company that has like a really long sales cycle, where you said it was like a year to 2 year turnaround, like how do you plan for that? Like, is that like if you have like a small business that only focus on like, or I tell people just focus on slimming down your sales cycle. Is there any like hacks or tips that you could say just right off the bat, or something common you've worked with other companies that, you know, they're just sales cycles too long? This is usually what's fixed it.
I wish there was a cookie cutter answer for that. I can give you, this is where the ideas come in. So for the company that I was working for before that demanded that 10% sales increase when I first came on board, I knew that I couldn't have the same customer base and expect that the sales cycle is just going to shrink because I want it to.
Right, yeah.
So,
let me put that.
So,
know your customers. Fire.
Yep.
You can't see a face, but fire.
So one of the things that I did was analyze the data that they had, because they had been in business for 30 years. So I analyzed the data and I realized we weren't marketing or selling to the people actually purchasing the product. So we're selling to architects and designers, but the people who are purchasing the product are general contractors. And so we were not marketing to them at all. Right. So, and they were the ones picking up the phone, calling us today, calling us tomorrow, calling us next week. And our product, for lack of a better term, was higher priced than the rest of the marketplace. And we were selling it as a boutique product. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs have that issue early on because we're outsourcing a lot, and that's making our costs just crazy. So we're having to differentiate ourselves quite a bit. So so I lost where I was. So
marketing too is different.
Yes. So creating a new market segment and new customer profile. I mean, it was so obvious and so evident that I was mad at them for not doing it sooner, but happy for myself because I'm like, oh, I can actually achieve this goal. Watch me do it.
Yeah, you need me.
Yeah.
I'm 31. Damn it.
Well, I think I was 26 at the time, but they were just, so we created this whole strategy based around that short-term piece because I'm like, how can you task me with having a 10% growth by the end of next year? And you've been flat for the past 5 years. They literally went through sales managers like water. Like They had a different one. I started there as inside sales, went to outside sales. I had 3 different sales managers that I worked under before I became the sales manager myself. And so identifying that, we were able to hit 18.5 million that following year. So we were able to exceed, no biggie. But we were able to exceed that goal. And so it was a really, really great start.
Yeah. And I think it's really good that you say that because a lot of times too, you'll see this in like bigger companies where they have like a higher valuation. It's one of those things where the marketing and the sales, they don't necessarily communicate to each other, hey, you're actually talking to the wrong person. And I think that's where, the break in communication is. So I think most people starting out and, oh my God.
Sorry.
Go to sleep. What are you doing, boy?
Just pat his back. Go to daddy. Go to daddy, okay?
Hey, buddy.
Okay, just say hi. Okay, go to daddy. Go to daddy. Love you. Sorry.
It's all good. So, man, completely lost my train of thought. Oh, also, yeah. So usually marketing and sales, they have a hard time communicating. Whether it's they just don't have the proper line of communication already set up, or they just don't even have the same resources, tools, or they don't even share the same office or in the same building. That's one of the things I always tell people, like, how often do your guys communicate? And you'll
Yeah,
see
that
that a
was
lot. Yeah.
yeah, that was a big part of that initial plan when we were able to reach that 18.5 million was alignment. So it's my biggest pet peeve in the organization I'm supporting right now. I made sure early on that me and the marketing manager were like this. We're best friends because that is without the sales and marketing alignment, it's gonna fall flat because case in point, we were starting really fast in this organization. We're sprinting pretty much to the launch, and so marketing started to put out email campaigns, and they started getting a flood of leads. And I told them at this point we don't have the sales infrastructure to catch that, and so part of that sales and marketing plan, everybody loves to have leads, right? I mean, if you're a salesperson, you're like, yeah, bring on the leads, bring on the leads. But
Wolf of
the
Wall Street.
best,
Yeah.
yeah, but the best analogy I can put to it is, don't expect me to catch Niagara Falls with a solo cup. It make sure the leads that you're attracting are able to be caught by the sales team, right? So it needs you need to match that because if you're if you're if you're generating all these leads, you can end up with disappointed customers because you don't have somebody to then follow up, or you don't have the team in place that you need to be able to catch those leads. So if sales and marketing are not in alignment, that's the biggest mistake any organization can make. I don't believe in a sales plan or a marketing plan. It needs to be a sales and marketing plan. It needs to be in total alignment.
Yeah, and I think what you said, just you and the marketing person just had to be real tight. It's one of those things you just got to know each other's strengths or weaknesses. Because same thing, like you pretty much had to design or make a new like client or ideal client, and that's usually what people fail to, I guess, like think about when it's actually when they do go through a storm. That sometimes, like, if you're not getting the numbers or you're not getting what you want from your current clientele or customer base, you might have to, look elsewhere or see what marketing sees and see if they have any feedback for you, because sometimes the answer is like right beside you, you just haven't asked them the right questions yet.
Yeah. And I think the biggest mistake people make in creating a sales plan is, well, number one, not creating one to begin with, but number two, not being flexible enough to modify it if you need to. So
Right.
doing those pulse checks are important. Like, there's so many people who are so in love with their ideas. I love my ideas so much, and it doesn't matter what happens. I'm just gonna keep talking and saying it's gonna work, and this is how it's gonna be because that's my pride and my ego, whatever. So it's gonna work, and so they just keep going with it.
Let's throw more
And
marketing
so,
at it.
yeah. And so I think it's really important to do those pulse checks and to modify your strategy as needed. The best tool is what the results that you're seeing, or what's coming out of the field, and to not heed those comments or feedback is a big mistake. You need to see if it's working, and then you need to be able to change it if it's not. And a lot of people don't do that. They're just too invested in their idea or too in love with their idea to do that. And so having those pulse checks are really important. That's what causes a lot of companies, sorry for the background noise. That's what causes a lot of companies to then pivot, right? If things aren't going how they want them to, then they need to pivot,
Yeah,
which a lot of companies are doing right now with the pandemic. And the ones who are going to survive are the ones that have pivoted the best.
Yeah, and I think you talked about this a couple times in the earlier episodes of sometimes just being hard headed about your idea is the number one downfall for most people starting out because they'll see that they designed the product or a service around one client and they probably only sell to that type of client like once, but the 90% is to someone else they didn't really think about, but then they just forget about them. They don't cater to them. So their clientele that's supported them, now that things have changed, the climate has changed, business changed, less face to face happens between customer and business. You can't get away with like the laziness at times or the things where you could just make up with because you just have a good product. It's really just catering to your or changing with the times. So specifically to that, like how have your businesses been affected, or like how is there any recommendations as far as like tips or things you would say to people starting out with the less and less face to face, less people going out traveling? Is there anything you're kind of seeing that kind of makes you kind of second guess what businesses need to do, or ideas that kind of need to trend in an opposite direction?
Well, I mean, I think that allocating your resources, and I honestly think that, well, it may be harder to get in front of people to get an appointment with them, but changing or reallocating your resources from maybe having lunches with people to now investing in Zoom or GoToMeeting and then sending them Uber Eats for that kind of touch. You know what I mean?
Oh,
At this point with the amount of tech, like, where's my Uber Eats, Jay? No, I'm kidding. So, like with
Brian,
with the amount of technology,
make her your synagogue.
with the amount of technology that's out there right now, I mean, imagine if this pandemic, like it was the Spanish influenza back in early 1900s, like the connection is, I mean, it's totally broken. Right now, people can function pretty normally with the technology that we have right now. Granted, you can't get your nails done, you can't have lunch with people, but you can modify the way that you do that. I mean, with some of the customer meetings that we're seeing, we're able to talk to a client base of 50 people versus 10, because, for example, before it's like we'd only go into one company and talk to 10 people within that company. Now we can talk to 5 companies at the same time. Granted, you want it to be personal, but you're allowing them to consume some of your content that you've created that's valuable enough for 50 people to join and hear what you have to say. So you have to be able to go with the flow. And so, for example, the company that I'm supporting right now in sales, they had recruited me because they're an events and trade show company. And so that is totally decimated. The trade show industry is just destroyed. It's destroyed. And so they've pivoted to work on interior design type of work. And so that is them trying to keep the doors open at the moment, right? Because that's a business that hasn't been as affected as the trade show industry. So how can they utilize the resources that they have right now towards another industry or another client base that is still standing? So it's really important to be able to reevaluate, be flexible enough to pivot your business, and to be open-minded enough to see what's out there. I think so many times people overcomplicate things. They think that if you're going into business, it has to be this super complicated way of doing it. And I'm doing it so smart and different than everybody else is doing it, so that's why mine's going to work. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple, stupid. That's what they say.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's why I think like people like me who do like photo and video, they've been like really like or more sought out as of late. I think that's why I've done like pretty well for myself with Honda, because there's a heavy reliance on like video marketing. I think that's where a lot of the pivoting goes. You never before has people even like purchased a vehicle online, and now I want to say 20% of all sales are just purely online, or they haven't even seen the vehicle in person. We just like walk around it with the camera, like, so you want it? Like, this is the
You
price.
must love that as a salesperson.
Right, but and that's really what it is, because like people just don't want to go out to the dealerships. If you're like a high population area, they're like, you know what, I don't want to put myself out there, I'll just look at it online and do the video. And I think people
Yeah.
that kind of knew where the industry was going before the pandemic, they're way ahead of everyone else. But that's because they are flexible. They kind of saw the trends right away. They saw how the market was moving, because I'd say the numbers at my dealership were like, they've never sold a vehicle online ever before January. And around January, that's when more and more cases started coming up. I think in January there's like one or two, and I think in this month alone we're actually at a low point. I think we already sold 5 cars online, and we're a small dealership, and
Yeah.
that does a lot to kind of see where everything's going. Now, to add on to that, you kind of touched it in the beginning, and I'll put this for my last question because we're nearing the 45-minute mark. I'll just So how do you get past all the stuff that you see online? You just said one of your fears before you die is that you can't watch every YouTube video I make. So like, how do you decipher what's important and what's not? Like, how do you make your content stand out? And I just say, if you're marketing your company, you want to share your story, but some people just don't really care about your story. Like, they just want to see what your product does and what it can do for your company. Do you have any ideas or suggestions that you would say for someone just starting out? Let's bring it real down. We're not a $15 million company. Let's say my rent's only $3,000 a month. Like, what kind of video marketing should I invest in? I only got like $200. Like, what should I focus on?
I mean, you understanding your customer profile is super important, and what their touch points are. So the things that I'm stopping and looking at are the things that resonate with me personally, where they really I want to learn more. So within the first couple lines, or within the headline, or within the first minute of whatever you're saying, you have to say something that is going to make me want to watch the rest of it. You have to have that hook in there.
So if my
And
title
that's
is how to develop an effective sales strategy, is that kind of what we're talking about? For someone that's looking for it?
Yeah, I mean, new business owners must watch. I don't know. You probably know these headlines better than I would, but something that knowing your customer is going to be the most important thing. What are their pain points, and what are they looking to accomplish? So for me, if my customer profile fits somebody's business, they'd be looking at you know a mother who doesn't have a lot of time, who is doesn't have time to cook, doesn't have time to take care of herself. Here's 5 minutes how you can refresh and feel like a new or something. I don't know, whatever. But like knowing your customer profile, knowing what their pain points are, and knowing what's going to make them what they feel will make them achieve what they're looking to achieve is the most important thing to have in the first minute or first couple lines of whatever you're saying.
And I think that's one of the things too. I think I've heard that a few times from everyone that's been on. It's pain points. It's not so much why they would buy something. It's why they kind of need something, or why they wouldn't buy something again. Because usually there's a product that's like yours already out there. Ask those people what they like about it and what they don't like about it, and it's usually what they don't like about it. It will be the reason why you can make yours better. That's kind of what I say. So,
Yep.
And
those differentiators are really important, and it goes back to that value proposition or your unique selling proposition. It's so important to have that. And the people who are the most difficult to support from a sales perspective or marketing perspective are the people who don't know what that is or never established one. So yeah, it's hard to tell them, but go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, and when I talked to you before this, I was like, man, we should really talk about SWOT analysis, or like competitive analysis, and kind of just like your own business or whatever. And we'll save that for another topic. But I think that's so important because a lot of times when someone will ask someone, oh, what they don't like about a product, they don't realize their product has the same problem or their company has the same problem as well. And I think that's also something that they really need to look at. So that self-evaluation's real important. But I know everything that you said makes total sense. It's like a lot of what you're saying on the high level, like a $15 million company compared to like someone just starting out, those solopreneurs, ultimately it's the same type of problem. You just got to really stick to the fundamentals and just kind of, figure out what works and what needs to be addressed. So,
Yeah, I mean, but the difference between a $15 million company and a solopreneur, you can move a lot faster as a solopreneur. You just got to check yourself a lot more because you don't have that many people in the organization checking you for you, right?
check yourself, break yourself.
Exactly. You have to check yourself a lot.
Oh man, I always forget how to turn this money thing off. I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Keep
But
it coming.
But anyways, Katrina, before I make it rain with my fake dollars, I just want to raise my glass to you with your fake wine in your glass, and just to say, I'm gonna have to cut it off, and we're gonna have to save it for next time. If you will, just wanna, can you give a quick shout out to everyone where they can find you, if they need to contact you or seek you for consulting, or for need you for your marketing and sales needs?
Yeah, just find me on Facebook. Yeah, Facebook, or if you have my number, we have all of our friends and family watching, so you know where to find me. Can we say hi to all of them really quick?
Yeah, go ahead. Of course.
And just say thank you for watching and make me not feel like a total loser. Love you guys. Rachel, Jess, Amanda, Michelle, Marianne, Jasmine, Leslie, John, Emil, Marlon, and Amelia,
See, I can't
Ryan,
even see
Carla.
everyone. Where is everyone? Darn it.
Oh, I was just looking at the comments. I don't know
Yeah, for
who's
some
actually.
reason I can't see who's in the chat room. It just won't let me. I keep trying.
Oh,
But hey,
are you
guys.
supposed to? Thank you, everybody. I wish I could talk to all these people. I could talk all night. I just want to say hi to all of them.
Yeah.
You guys are so awesome. And I'm such a boring mother. So message me. I'll be your friend.
Hey, Katrina. Well, thank you. Just want to
you.
say thank you for everyone watching. And same thing. Just make sure you share, like, support your friends and family. Especially in these times, like you really got to understand, like, small businesses are hurting. Like, everyone's really hurting. So just do what you can to pick each other up and call them, tell them you love them. All right, guys.
Yes.
Thank you,
Bye.
Katrina, again for everyone. Say hi to everyone. And I love
Bye,
you so
everyone.
much. Thanks for coming. Thanks for
Bye.
watching.